Developing tonight, thousands of people in Oregon potentially exposed to HIV, hepatitis, and other diseases. And healthcare leaders blame one doctor. Good evening. Welcome to West Coast Wrap. I'm Alex Savage. Tonight, Legacy Health and Providence Healthcare Systems are reaching out to their patients. Providence leaders say about 2,200 patients at Portland area hospitals may have been exposed. Legacy Health leaders are notifying 221 of their patients. The doctor suspected in all of these cases is accused of failing to follow infection control procedures. Providence is encouraging patients to be tested for various infectious diseases, including HIV and hepatitis B and C. The doctor involved was employed by Oregon Anesthesiology Group. Providence has severed ties with that company. OAG issued a statement that says, in part, quote, "When we learned that the physician had violated infection control practices, we suspended him, informed our partners Legacy Health and Providence, and then began an investigation that resulted in the physician's termination. Even though the risk of infection was low, new protocols and procedures have been put in place to prevent similar incidents in the future." And if a patient does test positive, Providence says it will reach out to discuss those test results and the next steps. Health officials believe the West's extreme heat has claimed even more lives. Soaring temperatures are suspected of contributing to the deaths of dozens of people in at least 4 West Coast states since late May. 2 of the most recent cases are in Washington County, Oregon. Officials there say an 87-year-old man and a 73-year-old woman died overnight. In California, at least 19 heat-related deaths are under investigation now in Santa Clara County in the Bay Area. There have also been 3 other deaths in Alameda, Contra Costa, and Sonoma counties. The deaths include seniors who were found inside their homes with no air conditioning and at least 3 people who were unhoused or living in transitional housing.
People walk out into these really intense temperatures. One of the body's reaction is that you have a shunting of blood from the core to the periphery to try to cool down.
Medical experts say during this kind of extreme heat, it's important to drink plenty of water and limit physical activity, especially during the hottest parts of the day. Well, the extreme heat just won't quit in Las Vegas. Here is a live look at conditions in the city tonight, where the temperature soared up to 115 degrees this afternoon. This was the 6th straight day temperatures have been at or above 115 degrees in the city. Fox 5's Victoria Saha shows us how volunteers are working to help keep Las Vegas's most vulnerable populations safe during this heat wave.
We had a spare piece of wood out there and bought a can of spray paint.
And that's how the free water sign in front of Bruce Solutions came about.
And the neighborhood we're in, we're seeing a lot of people drop like flies because of the fentanyl and the heat.
That one sign now making a huge difference.
Stay hydrated, man. You know, we're getting a lot of water donations, so that's great. Just trying to keep the town hydrated during this heat wave.
Keith Courtney bought this building a year ago, naming it Bruce Solutions, offering medical, mental health, and other community resources by teaming up with healthcare workers.
We're here to serve you and to meet your needs. We just want to make sure that, especially in this heat, that people have a place to come, just a little bit of refuge, you know, and that we're meeting a basic need.
A need that is now being met with water.
We need some more water.
And a free meal.
We do this on a daily basis, and that's why, you know, sometimes donations are, you know, welcome, because this is all free to the community.
Cooking up to 100 hot dogs a day.
Here you guys go. Most of all, just listening to the community and understanding their needs. Each community is different. Their needs are different. Their problems are different.
A simple gesture that goes a long way.
And that was Fox 5's Victoria Saha reporting for us tonight. In an effort to discourage tourists from venturing out in this heat, Las Vegas's Neon Museum has been shutting down all this week because the temperatures reached 110 degrees or more. The iconic outdoor attraction houses old Las Vegas hotel and casino signs. But of course, they do not want folks venturing out when the heat is like it is right now. Let's bring in KTVU meteorologist Roberta Gonzalez, who can tell us when a cool down may be coming. Roberta, anytime soon?
I see a cool down to an average high temperature of 104 in Las Vegas on July 25th.
Oh.
Yeah, not until then. Take a look at this particular graphic I created so you can get a good idea, a good flavor, just how hot it's been in Las Vegas. Again, the average high is 104 degrees. Beginning on July 1st, 107, that was the coolest temperature. The hottest was 120 degrees, established on July 7th, just a few days ago. And today it was 118 for the second day in a row. Forecasting 115 tomorrow, but the temperature is well above average, and today was a daily record again in the Las Vegas area. So obviously we have the heat warning still in effect for much of California, also in Nevada and Arizona and in Utah, with heat advisories in place as well. We did have a high temperature today of 80 degrees in Seattle, which was above average for this time of the year. Meanwhile, around the Arizona area, you could see a few billowing clouds in the foreground there. 115, we did have some monsoonal moisture, but it was pretty far to the south around Tombstone and Sierra Vista. 88 degrees today in Los Angeles, but right there in Santa Monica, the high temperature was 88 degrees as well, dropping to 77 degrees as soon as you got a little bit closer to the seashore. Right now, 68 degrees in San Francisco, when the average high temperature this time of the year is actually 67 degrees, so gradual cool down there. Look at Los Angeles. There you have a pair of 9s in Reno. So this is a live look right now over in the San Francisco Bay Area. A little faint stratus in the form of some low clouds that will be developing in the evening hours. It's a bit on the hazy side, but that bank of cloudiness is roughly only about 200 feet in the overnight hours. It'll wipe away again tomorrow. Hazy conditions. We did have a spare the air day in the Bay Area. That is not the case for Friday. Now, meanwhile, other notable numbers that you need to take hold of for tomorrow. This particular computer model is playing down Las Vegas at 110. It'll hit 115 easily tomorrow. Also, 76 degrees in San Diego. Meanwhile, your West Coast wrap forecast, we're calling for temperatures to gradually ease over the weekend in the San Francisco Bay Area after a record high temperature inland today in Livermore. That's about 50 miles inland. That was 111 degrees. Meanwhile, here's your temperatures for your Friday across Southern California. Phoenix, 116. Denver, this is crazy because the icons are covering the one. They're usually never in the triple digits. 102 degrees on Friday, holding steady over the weekend. And Alex, 80s will continue. The heat wave is encompassing all of the western states.
Yeah, and it is an intense heat wave for sure. Roberta, thank you. Testimony continued today in actor Alec Baldwin's involuntary manslaughter trial in New Mexico. Prosecutors focused in on ammunition and how weapons are used on movie sets. Fox's Jonathan Hunt has the latest tonight from the courtroom.
This is a close-up of the gun holster that was belonging to Mr. Baldwin that has a live round in it.
Evidence presented Thursday morning during the involuntary manslaughter trial of Alec Baldwin showed there was a live round inside the actor's gun belt prior to the fatal shooting of cinematographer Helena Hutchins. The crime scene technician also testified that live rounds were discovered in several other locations on the set of the movie Rust, including in the prop cart inside a box of ammunition and in a second gun holster worn by actor Jensen Ackles.
In other words, somebody could have mistaken one for the other, right?
Yes.
On Wednesday, the jury viewed body cam video that showed the desperate attempts that were made to save Hutchins' life after she was shot when a gun Baldwin was holding and pointing at her fired a live round. Prosecutors argued Baldwin was reckless when it came to safety checks on set. His attorneys pushed back, saying those responsible for safety told the actor the gun was cold. In other words, did not contain live ammunition. It's still unknown if Baldwin will take the stand in his own defense over the next week.
He went on national TV and he talked at length about what happened. It's up to him whether he wants to get on stand and answer those questions all over again.
If convicted, Baldwin faces up to 18 months in prison. In Santa Fe, New Mexico, Jonathan Hunt, Fox News.
An investigation is underway tonight in the Bay Area after police in Alameda say a father shot and killed his son, wife, mother, and father-in-law inside their home last night. The man is also suspected of shooting and critically injuring his 1-year-old son. Police say they're now interviewing the father, but did not release any details on a possible motive.
I know that a 6-year-old and a 1-year-old were shot, and so were elderly people, and so that's what I do know, and I can with that information say that what he did was tragic, sad, and the actions of a coward.
Neighbors say the family moved into that neighborhood just a few months ago, and they remember them as warm, friendly, and outgoing. Coming up tonight on West Coast Wrap, on the heels of today's highly anticipated news conference, President Biden is heading west. Coming up, what he has planned during 3 days in the battleground state of Nevada. Also, Lego sets serving as the building blocks for an organized retail theft investigation here in the West. We'll show you more on this bust that is worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. A pair of powerful earthquakes rocked the Pacific Northwest this morning. First, a 6.4 magnitude quake hit a little after 8 o'clock this morning. The epicenter was about 130 miles off the coast of British Columbia, Canada. A little more than an hour later, a 5.4 magnitude quake hit the same general area. People as far away as Seattle and Tacoma reported feeling the shaking. Tonight, there are no reports of any damage or injuries. In the Bay Area, convicted murderer Scott Peterson appeared virtually in court once again today as he fights to prove his innocence in a push for a new trial. As KTVU crime reporter Henry Lee explains, attorneys in the case argued today over which DNA lab will analyze a key piece of evidence.
I've never seen such poorly documented evidence. Collection, retention, transfers.
Paula Mitchell, director of the LA Innocence Project, bashing how evidence was gathered, ultimately ending in the conviction of her client, Scott Peterson.
This is far, far short of what we need in terms of a documented chain of custody.
As he has in the past, Peterson appeared in San Mateo County Superior Court via Zoom from Mule Creek State Prison, where he's serving a life sentence for killing his pregnant wife, Lacey, and their unborn son, Connor. At issue is how a 15-inch piece of duct tape that was found on Lacey's pants will be tested, and whether anyone else's DNA shows up. Judge Elizabeth Hill made clear the defense may not get all it wants.
What I'm being asked to evaluate is whether the district attorney has made a reasonable effort to communicate with the laboratory to provide what exists, not what should ideally exist if they had done the job the way you would have preferred they did it.
Both sides also squabbled over which DNA lab will test the duct tape. The defense wants to use a lab called Siri that the judge says has had issues.
Siri had a misprogramming of the laboratory equipment that resulted in some 580 cases having results being placed under review and a mistrial and a homicide in Sonoma County.
The prosecution has concerns too.
We're concerned about the lack of transparency of prior testing that's already been going on with this pre-existing and this relationship that defense has with Siri.
The judge has to decide proper chain of custody, and she has to listen to, if it does get to testimony, from the lab that ultimately does the DNA testing.
The judge says she'll wait until Monday to pick the DNA lab in question. That final ruling will be part of another hearing on Monday over defense access to prosecution evidence in the Peterson case. In Redwood City, Henry Lee, KTVU, Fox 2 News.
The battle against a wildfire in Montana has turned tragic. Investigators say a pilot died yesterday when her firefighting plane went down in a reservoir. She was part of the response effort to the Horse Gulch fire. This is burning outside Helena in Montana's Helena, Lewis and Clark National Forest. It's charred more than 7,500 acres with no containment tonight. The cause of the plane crash is being investigated by the FAA, the NTSB, and the U.S. Forest Service. In Oregon, the Larch Creek fire has now grown to more than 10,000 acres tonight. Fox 12's Dylan Scott shows us the challenges firefighters are facing as they battle this fire about 100 miles east of Portland.
This is the original Oregonian. This is how it's been. The people over here get together.
From all over the state, they've come. Fire departments, state agencies, and private landowners alike doing what they can to extinguish this Larch Creek fire.
All the outside agencies that are here has all been great assets for us. The air resources, it saved our town yesterday. It did. It saved our town yesterday.
Tye Valley Fire Chief Paula Plant is among the grateful residents, hoping this fire, which has already spread over 10,500 acres in 3 days, will soon finally meet its end.
Fire is fire. You just can't tell what it's going to do.
With Governor Tina Kotek issuing an emergency conflagration warning, 9 counties have already answered the call.
And being able to just help them and be able to, really try and secure and get the community safe is huge.
With high winds and hot temperatures continuing to remain in this region, these brave men and women know they're not out of the woods just yet.
We're here for the battle. We're here for the fight.
And that was Fox 12's Dylan Scott reporting for us tonight. Investigators in Oregon do believe that wildfire was human-caused. Tonight, firefighters are warning some people northwest of Phoenix to be ready to evacuate if necessary. Hot, windy conditions are pushing flames from the hillside fire through dry grass and shrubs. This fire has burned more than 800 acres near the community of Congress. It first started Tuesday, and tonight there's no containment on the fire. Investigators are still trying to figure out how it started. Meantime, while crews were battling the hillside fire, authorities arrested a man who they say was pretending to be a firefighter. The sheriff's department says Rodney Parent caused panic yesterday after he went around knocking on people's doors, telling them they needed to evacuate, which was not the case. Parent previously worked as a firefighter but was let go several months ago. He's now facing several charges, including impersonating a public servant. President Biden held a closely watched news conference earlier today where he said he has more work to do, insisting he will stay in the race for the White House. The president, who is 81 years old, was repeatedly asked during the news conference about the growing calls for him to step aside, coming from many Democratic colleagues, along with some wealthy donors, such as George Clooney. Speaking for about an hour and taking reporter questions, the president said he is not in this campaign for his legacy, but to finish the job he started. As for his debate performance, he said his schedule has been full bore with long hours and many events.
I'm determined on running, but I think it's important that I allay fears by let them see me out there. Let me see them out, for the longest time it was, Biden's not prepared to sit with us unscripted. Biden's not prepared to, anyway. And so what I'm doing is, and I've been doing, I think we've done over 20 major events. Russia had 17.
The president also touted his accomplishments on the economy and the passage of major legislation on climate change and infrastructure. And he said the election of Donald Trump would be a threat to freedom in the United States and around the world. The president is planning to make campaign stops in the battleground state of Nevada next week. He will arrive Monday in Las Vegas. Then the next day, he'll speak to crowds at the NAACP's National Convention. That event is being held at the Mandalay Bay Convention Center. The day after that, he'll address people gathered for the Unidos U.S. Annual Conference. That's happening just a few blocks away from the event at the MGM Grand. And while the president is spending time out west, or will be, the GOP convention will be happening. Barricades are already going up in Milwaukee to help direct crowds for that event. Thursday is the last day of the convention. That's when former President Trump is expected to formally accept the Republican Party's presidential nomination. Today, Wisconsin's GOP chairman said he expects to see protesters gathered outside the convention venue.
We'll see some of that, but I know we've had a really good relationship with the city, and the committee has with the Secret Service and all the dozens and dozens of law enforcement agencies. So I'm confident we'll have a good convention.
Ahead of the convention, former President Trump plans to attend a campaign rally in Butler, Pennsylvania. That's set to take place on Saturday. Coming up tonight here on West Coast Wrap, police in Oregon show off a massive pile of stolen Lego sets. How investigators piece this case together. Plus,
I wish I could say you get used to it, but I'll be honest with you, after 14 years, you never really get accustomed to it.
The brutal heat across the West taking a toll on many people who work outdoors, how they're getting by on the tarmac at one Arizona airport. Getting back now to the extreme heat here in the West, and this is a live look tonight at downtown Phoenix, where temperatures today reached 117 degrees. These conditions are brutal for anyone who is venturing outside. Tonight, Fox 10's Brian Webb spoke with someone who makes a living in the heat.
It's one of the hottest days of the summer so far. The air temperature right about 110 degrees, but the temperature on the pavement, well, that comes in at right about 144 degrees. People are still popping into Mesa Gateway Airport during the hottest time of year for one reason or another.
What is it, 115 or something like that?
Something like that.
Yeah, it's like 100 from where I'm from, so 15 more degrees, not too bad.
Holy cow, it's hot down here. I'm melted. My wife loves the heat, but I love the South Dakota winters. So.
And on the apron during the hottest hours of the day, Josh is on the job.
And I wish I could say you get used to it, but I'll be honest with you, after 14 years, you never really get accustomed to it.
Josh is head ramper on the executive side, doing it for 14 years now. He makes sure the planes have everything they need, wingtip to wingtip, like a concierge on concrete.
Fuel, catering, ground support equipment, towing from one place to another.
And Josh makes sure he's heat ready by wearing a big hat, thick soles, and thick skin.
You know, I love it out here. As miserable as it is, you know, the other 7 months of the year, it is absolute heavenly.
Keeping planes in the sky at 110 degrees on the ground, Josh wouldn't have it any other way. Brian Webb, Fox 10 News.
The Federal Reserve could cut interest rates by the end of this summer after a new report released today showed inflation cooling last month. The Consumer Price Index showed a 0.1% decline. That's the first monthly decline since 2020. Core CPI, which doesn't count food and energy, also rose less than expected, 0.1%. Consumer prices in June were up 3% compared to a year earlier. That's down from 3.3% in May. With these new numbers, there's anticipation the Federal Reserve may have reason to lower interest rates in the coming months.
You gotta put it in the context of 7 good inflation reports last year and then 4 bad reports at the beginning of this year, with inflation running over 3% by their preferred measure, not the CPI. So that has to weigh on them.
President Biden has responded to the report, claiming companies are responsible for inflating prices. A 3-month-long investigation in Oregon led to police confiscating a mountain of stolen Lego sets worth over $200,000. This week, Springfield police shared this drone footage showing over 4,000 Lego sets that officers recovered back on July 3rd. They did so while executing a search warrant at a toy store in Eugene called Brick Builders. The owner of that store and one other man are accused of knowingly buying the unopened sets from suspects who stole them from local stores like Target and Barnes & Noble's. Quite a haul of Lego sets there in that shot. That does it for West Coast Wrap tonight. We appreciate you watching. And before we go, a reminder here that you can stay up to date on all the stories we're covering across the West by heading to our website. That is westcoastwrap.com. And you can also stream all of our shows right there on your smart TV by downloading the free Fox Local app. We leave you here with this warm shot of downtown Phoenix. Have a good night.